A pipe dream in a rigged polity. Welcome to Soft Talk. After doing a cursory study of the goings on in this wonderland of ours, apart from going through chapters of lived experiences in the course of my 25-year career, I have come to a conclusion that ours is a country of farmers, the Bhootpoorvas in Sanskrit and Nepali, with not much space for the newbies, from newspaper columns to vital bodies of the state, unless and until until you happen to be the kith and or kin of powers that be, of course. While drafting these lines, the Bhootpoorva, or Bhoopoo in short, hotels and lodges of western hill districts of Gulmi and Palpa come to mind. These lodging and boarding facilities borrow their names from service personnel, retired service personnel who served in India and other parts of the world in their prime, fighting others' wars on others' orders in other lands, mainly because successive regimes of different hues and shades that ruled our country after the Anglo-Nepal War of 1814 to 1816. These rulers did not bother to mobilize those brave hearts for the protection of the country and her peoples. By the way, if you have not subscribed to our channel, I request you to subscribe to it, comment on our presentation, and press that like button if it touches your hearts and minds. We are trying to promote citizen journalism, and your support in this endeavor means quite a lot to us. Back to the presentation. This is not to say that a chronic inability of successive generations of Nepalese to see opportunities in our ancestral land and the infallible ability to see rivers of milk and honey flowing in other lands is not to blame. Apparently, the problem goes well beyond poor eyesight. Still, one can take solace in the fact that the retired service personnel and their families, they have been doing something wonderful for the ancestral land. They have been doing a great service to the country and her peoples by running businesses like those Bhoopoo hotels and lodges and engaging themselves in social services and community development activities. This chapter from history and the continued exodus of Nepali youths in search of jobs all over the world, including for the enlistment in the Russia-Ukraine war, shows once again that hungry people are easily led. By the way, according to some estimates, 2,500 people, if I am not mistaken, 2,500 Nepali youths leave the country every day in search of greener pastures abroad, and this should stop. The celebrated poet Bhupi Serchan, a Nepali poet, uh, he has likened us to the queens of carom board, carom ka gotiharu. That is his wording. These queens, of course, they move only when the striker strikes, describing us in general as humans with higher faculties empty and Nepal as a country of rumors. Hallai Halla ko desh is what he calls Nepal. Sadly, if he were to live in this day and age, would he be less scathing of this race? Perhaps not. I was talking about the celebrated poet Bhupi Sherchand's Hallai Halla Ko Desh, a poem, a celebrated poem, a much popular poem, and that is on the background. It's a long poem. Part of it is in the background. It is taken from bhupisherchan.com. Okay, let's continue with this presentation. And would Bhupi Sherchan still describe us, the Nepali people, as a people whose courage comes from a lack of intellect even today? Most probably, that is quite probable. Frankly, back to the Bhoopoo accommodations. These hotels and restaurants belonging to retired service personnel, the Gurkhas, they offer a fairly luxurious stay for the boarders, most of whom apparently happen to be from the above mentioned Bhoopoo community, the community of retired service personnel who visit the district headquarters to just collect pensions, and these accommodations also offer an opportunity to recount the good old days. Other than a contextual mention, these Bhoopoos who burned their youths in the jungles of Borneo, Burma, nowadays it's called Myanmar, Malaya, the Falklands, Kashmir, Shimla, and other war fronts to eke out a living for themselves and their family members, leaving corrupt lords of different hues and shades to plunder this country. These Bhupus are not the topic of today's contemplation. Let's then talk about a different strain of Bhupus who have been hogging the headlines of late for all the wrong reasons, of course. These Bhupus include retired but not tired, of course, bureaucrats, securocrats, former chiefs and members of constitutional agencies, retired spin doctors of government mouthpieces, and the like. Ever wondered why I did not mention politicians in this list, Nepali politicians in particular in this list? This is because, barring a handful of exceptions, politicians do not retire as their lifelong presence in our executive and legislature shows. As things stand, the word retirement does not exist in the manifestos of different political parties. The problem with an upwardly mobile strain of the Bhoopoos, but please do not put all Bhoopoos in one basket. Uh, I'm talking about retired officials of different government agencies at this moment. The problem with an upwardly mobile strain of these Bhoopoos, uh, with a ready access to the corridors of power in Singadarbar, Baluatar, Thumbarahi, Budanilkant, Sanepa, and much, much beyond. From the source of Seni to the Thames to the Hudson to the Yamuna, is that they do not bother to cool off their heels, even after running the country for running or ruining, whichever you like it. Like it's quite interchangeable in the context of Nepal. After running the country for 30 years or thereabouts, thereby defying the rules of the relay race where you hand over the baton after running a certain stretch. These are charges not without substance, of course, that a clique, that a coterie engages in a setting with senior politicians making favorable decisions to land important positions in constitutional bodies and beyond post retirement. There is no denying that civil service constitutes a diverse pool of human resources selected through reasonably fair service commissions, including the Public Service Commission, something from which the state can benefit immensely by introducing a cooling off period through a legislation that bars these people from joining constitutional bodies post retirement for a 2 year period. How does the government plan to fill up vacancies in these bodies? By appointing foreign experts in sensitive organs? Well, I don't know. Perhaps the government does. Will this legislation end up prompting the retired bureaucrats to seek employment opportunities with foreign agencies? If yes, what impact will it have on the country? Who knows better than our extremely capable government under such a learned Prime Minister? Still, there's no denying that constitutional bodies and public enterprises have become the Bharti Kendras, that is, recruitment centers that always have positions vacant for retired bureaucrats well linked with the top brass of major political parties, all at the expense of deserving candidates bereft of such connections from bureaucracy and beyond. In summary, Nepal needs an undoctored, transparent, and accountable vetting process for the selection of the cream in our constitutional bodies, which is but a pipe dream in a rigged polity. With this remark, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.